Hello and happy Thursday. It's Josh here with On the Wrong Lead, and I'm currently watching this race here at Del Mar. I need a 7 or 8 and 9, and that looks like the 11. So that ain't gonna do. That ain't gonna do it for me. Unfortunate. I run second, third, and like sixth. Thanks, Mark. I blame you for this.
I mean, it clearly was my fault, but yeah, you had second and third. That's good. That's better than I did today at Saratoga. So.
Yeah, apparently somebody has sounded the Saratoga is logical alarm. Caleb, Mr. Terry Knight has sounded the Saratoga makes sense now. I don't know if he, I mean, is he have a different illness now on top of just like recovering from the hip or the knee or what's going on here?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't watch anything today or yesterday for that matter. So I don't know what the track was doing. I mean, if Dad is saying the track makes sense, then that typically means speed is good and no-name jockeys aren't winning. So my guess is that speed was good and that guys like Katie Davis and Omar, Moreno, and those guys are probably not winning. So I don't know, but he had a couple bets today, so I was happy for him. I didn't play anything, so but it sounds like he was in the minority today.
Yeah, Mark. I mean,
I think turf speed got real good. It seemed to be a lot better, but we haven't gotten a lot of rain in the past week or so, which makes more sense. That was obviously a bog to start the meet. The dirt just made absolutely no sense. I mean, besides the fact that Linda's still just winning everything, not tied down. But it was a really weird day, and it was one of those days that I don't know. I think sometimes you get these things where biases start changing, and you kind of got to watch it a little bit and play. It's like, okay, did it actually change, or was my sample size too small, or did some weird crap happen? We'll see. I mean, I think that the big race today was next, going absolutely secretariat down the front stretch. So next is clearly your best dirt, I don't know, distance marathon or stay or whatever you want to call it in the country, and absolutely rubber stamp that today. So.
Another one of Caleb's favorite divisions, the dirt marathon division. But really, they only run those at New York, right? New York runs like a couple of them.
California has one or two.
Yeah, there's the it's not the San Clemente, it's the I'll think of it eventually. There is one out at is it Palos Verdes?
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
Not the Palos Verdes. I think that's a Philly race.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Today was kind of today was just a very weird day until Del Mar started, and then I had two nice winners at Del Mar, which saved my day. But I couldn't connect anything horizontally, but had a couple nice win bets, so all is not lost. Mark, we'll take a quick little dive into tournament talk. You were mentioning, so we're going to be kind of out of pocket next week. We're going to be out in Peoria. Stream TBD, because I know Caleb is going to be just like trying to rearrange his life the next couple weeks. So we'll see if we're able to stream next week. But you mentioned something about a Monmouth contest on is it Whitney Day?
It's on Whitney Day. There is one of the I entered one of these Monmouth contests, and I get updates on them all now. You can play it on track or online. I think it's a $500 buy-in if I remember, but they have BC seats, NHC seats, all the Monmouth goodness. Live money. So we may be playing disc golf while also trying to play a Monmouth tournament. Both of us. This could be highly entertaining.
Yeah, losing money both two ways. If it's not one thing with the entry fee, but also with the tournament there. But yeah, I don't know. Like, This Saratoga meet, man, like it just got me at a loss for words. It's been a rough start of the meet for me personally, betting wise. But I don't know, man. Like it just feels like the field size has been decimated by weather for a couple of days, and we're gonna look at a couple of stakes on Saturday, and it just seems like I don't know. It just seems like they're not drawing like they used to. Like, and that could very well be just that's what we have right now. But I mean, any single race that's got G1 in it is drawn like 5 or 6 horses.
I think I think sometimes people go, "Oh, Saratoga has big field sizes," but where Saratoga draws big field sizes is in maiden races and on turf. Like the claiming mid-level turf stuff, where you get those kind of field fill races, middle of the card with full or oversubscribed fields every time, and that's what makes Saratoga fun. Okay, yeah, cool. This G1 has 5 horses and it's kind of chalky, and maybe there's 2 major players in it, and they're fine, but you're betting through them and trying to find prices in these other legs. The problem has been due to the the weather we've had. We just haven't had those other legs. So what would have been a really cool 12 horse turf race is now whatever 2 MTOs draw in that absolutely tower over the field, and it becomes a 2-horse 5-horse field with 2 actual players in it, and those just that's not fun when it's
and then Linda Rice wins anyways,
and then Linda Rice always wins. Yes, I mean. So there's been all the Linda Rice controversy, and I guess I get it. I get people hate a trainer that's winning it. I think after today she's 36% on the meet, which is an absolutely absurd statistic because a lot of those races she had multiple entries in. But it's also the fact of she has been very aggressively placing horses. She went down and she played the game of having a big piggy bank, go to Kentucky, do a lot of shopping and claimers, and then ship them up to New York, drop them down, and go pop, drop and pop. And she's winning at stupid percentages and rubbing it in Naira's face, which she's obviously doing. And I mean, you can love it or you can hate it or whatever, but it is what it is, and anybody else can do it as well.
Oh, I like the new art. I like it.
Linda
feelings.
Simple alert there.
Feelings. She's won the trainer title at Saratoga before. This isn't a new thing, so.
Yeah, but not at 36%.
And the year she did it, Todd had an off year, but yeah, okay.
I mean, and also in fairness to Linda, what about wasn't Irad last week, end of last week, didn't he have 21 wins and the next closest had 9 or something?
Well, part of that was because Jose was hurt, but yes, you're not wrong. Yeah.
So, and frankly, if Irad Ortiz is winning at 21%, I mean, it's going to be chalk because people just bet Irad off the board. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it is.
But Uncle Sully just really rubbing it in. Hope everyone had the 11 in the last at Del Mar. I had the 7, 8, 9. Uncle Sully.
I didn't realize the 11 went off 7-1. That's a fantastic price on that horse.
Yeah, really good price on the horse. Yeah.
And they're my fellow compatriots here, just also pouring it on as well.
I will say though, the other odd thing that we've had at Saratoga this year, and maybe it's because the turf races have been taken off, but the Kentucky trainers have been absolutely just crickets. None of the big name makers 5% on the meet. I mean, he had another winner today, but I think he's 2 for 28 or something like that. Which normally Maker has some good winners. Christophe Clement's been completely absent. Not that I'm calling him a Kentucky trainer, just he's a trainer that normally shows up and has a big barn that fires at Saratoga. A lot of these normal Cox has been good. I guess he's a Kentucky trainer, but most of these normal Kentucky trainers that we're used to seeing showing up with want to show off and have live mounts just haven't been there. And that does turn it very much into a, whatever Belmont North type colony. And that's not as exciting as those big fields and all those, outsider connections.
So, I mean, can Brad Cox claim that winner that Linda claimed off him that won by open links and Linda moved up off of Brad? I forgot the name of the horse, but that was oh yeah, there's Charles talking about it. Linda's
Yeah.
been claiming a bunch of the
No,
good cheap horses there. At
Charles is
Kentucky.
spot on. That's exactly the point I was saying. Linda went down to all the Kentucky tracks and claimed at a level, and she knew, hey, I can go to Kentucky, claim a claiming 35, run it back at a claiming 35 at Saratoga, and it's an easier race at Saratoga than it is running, or in Naira than it is running at, whatever XYZ, whatever it is, Kentucky track. It's an easier level. That's the game, though, and she's bringing, I don't know, whatever parity to the game, right? Somebody's got to be that person willing to do that. And if you're willing to do that, take advantage of it. Go cash some checks.
Caleb, did you hear that as well as I did? That racing in Kentucky is much more competitive than racing in New York.
That's what Mark said.
That sounds like what
I
heard.
said at the claiming, the middle of the road claiming levels. Yes.
I mean, I think that's true, though. I think the claiming horses in Kentucky are better, and they have been for a while. At the grade 1 level, grade 2 level, I mean, Saratoga is significantly better, but it's also hard to say because they only get 4 horses.
Yeah, and agreed. I think that we've known for a while that a claiming at a level ships from Kentucky to New York, and it's probably a better horse than the New York level if it's competitive there. So that's not a new thing.
I just love that, like I've just got my shit kicked in the last 3 weeks, and now I'm making Mark apologize for all of New York. For doing that. I did. Side note: I had a really, really funny idea for a video. Maybe we'll do this, but basically, it's going to be like a series of questions, and we all answer it for each other. So, like the first question, because it started off with me thinking about, like, how would I describe like Caleb's and Mark's handicapping style, right? And so I would talk about Mark, and then I would talk about Caleb. And I figured we just mash all this up, do like 3 or 4 questions and mash this all up together and just see what happens. I can edit it together. Kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen, like you go to like sporting events, right? And then like they'll have like the people like like the players up there, and they're like, oh, who's the biggest jokester in the locker room, right? And they just like all start talking about each other. I thought it'd be something fun, but we'll take a look at that. Uncle Sully actually bringing up a good point though about that DQ today in the 7th, and our friend PDT, I don't know if he's in chat, but he said that was a makeup call.
It felt like one, didn't it?
He's not wrong. Yeah, but it was a makeup call on the wrong Ortiz.
It's never really the wrong Ortiz if it's Irad.
I mean, Jose did what was egregiously considerably worse yesterday. Didn't get taken down, and then Irad gets taken down for what everybody saw. And I've watched the replay about 10 times, and I'm still shocked that they took that down. Like, I mean, there are jurisdictions in the country. I mean, we're looking at you, Kentucky, where that does come down, but that's never been a DQ at Naira.
The funniest part about that race, though, was, and Uncle Sully's here, so we can talk about jockeys now. Mark was basically lambasting me for not liking the 13 in that race, and I told him, like, just look who's riding. Like, why would I bet that horse? And it was a Trevor McCarthy horse. And
that horse finished ahead of all of your picks.
Did. Yes.
Okay, cool. Just making sure we're
And I looked at that 12, and I remember looking at it and just like sitting there, and I'm like, and then I was just like, why am I staring at this horse? I don't understand. But
yeah, I mean the 5 who crossed the wire first, I had a hard time getting to because just how cold Maker's been. But yeah.
But I'm sure people love hearing about how I almost cashed tickets today. But instead, why don't we try to cash some real tickets? We'll take a look at these 2 greatest stakes here at Saratoga
SpongeBob.
first.
I love SpongeBob.
Where is he that?
This Discord overlays up.
Okay.
What?
You just had your start button overlaid over the top, and there was SpongeBob.
Interesting. I don't have SpongeBob anywhere.
Like your start button menu, the top where it has like a news feed. The news article that popped up was SpongeBob's picture.
Interesting.
People in chat will tell you that Caleb and I are not.
I saw it. Yeah,
it happened.
Huh?
Josh is a secret SpongeBob fan.
This is it's so weird.
SpongeBob fan,
dude.
I was having for Mr. Grabs guy, really.
I'm literally only sharing the PDF, so that's really weird that happened. But Anyways, the Alfred G. Vanderbilt here, 6 furlongs, grade one, and I guess you got grade one horses in here. Caleb, I think you said it best last night, where you said if Linda Rice turns Gunnet into a grade one winner, I think I might be done with Saratoga. So not to be confused with Gunite, who's also in this race, but this is kind of, at least on the morning line, looks like a two horse race between Elite Power here, the 4, the defending Breeders' Cup Sprint champion, and Gunite, who had just won a listed stakes at Churchill and is coming back here. And I think Caleb, why don't you kind of start off, because I think when we talked yesterday, you were pretty dead set that this is basically Elite Power and nobody else here.
Yeah, I think it's a one horse race. I think Elite Power is just too good for this group. He's done basically nothing wrong ever since he got rolling. Early last year, he hasn't missed a beat. I mean, he's won his last 7 races in a row. Anywhere from 6 furlongs all the way up to a mile. He won overseas in Saudi Arabia. If it feels like if there was a time to beat him, it might have been last out in the True North in his first start back in the States after shipping overseas, and he looked no worse for wear at all. I'm not going to sit here and talk for 10 minutes about a horse that's going to be 4 to 5, but I do think it's the kind of race where you need to kind of take a stance, depending on your opinions elsewhere anyway. I'll be embarrassed by anyone who uses Elite Power and Gunite in this race. I think you have to pick one. And for me, he's the shorter price, but he's a much more likely winner, I think. Elite Power just seems to be quite a bit better right now. So he dusted them when they met in Saudi Arabia, and I wouldn't expect anything different here.
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty easy here. I think, I 100% agree with Caleb. Elite Power is the horse to beat here. Took him, 3 races, took 4 races to figure it out, and then he really freaking figured it out, and he got really, really, really good. I think Elite Power is the horse to beat here. It's quite obvious looking at the Del Mar races that we'll get to later that a bunch of people are ducking Elite Power and shipping all the way across the country to do so. So I think Elite Power is just really tough in here, and I don't really need anybody else.
I will be the lone dissenter here. And I took Gunite in this spot simply because he's twice the price as Elite Power. I don't know, man. I agree with you, Caleb. I think last time was the time to beat Elite Power, and he just showed up and did his thing. I don't know. I have a hard time backing these closer sprinters all the time. I just keep on thinking that they're just not going. There's going to be one time where they don't get there. Similar to Whitmore. Eventually that horse is just not going to get there. So I think Gunite is a little bit more tactical than Elite Power. So I'm basically just going to take him here as being a little bit more tactical. Uncle Sully here is mentioning was it the 6 Dean Delivers, and the interesting thing about Dean Delivers is when I look at Dean Delivers, he actually plots out really well here, and shout out to Optics for the data here. He plots out really, really well. Is a Q1 square here on both plots, but if you kind of go through, we do have the notes aspects here. And the last 2 times, got a couple of red words here from the note takers. Last time out seemed to be kind of lone speed, and was kind of rushed up the front there. And then two back seemed to they just have perfect written down, which means the horse just kind of got a perfect trip. So I think you kind of downgrade those 2 efforts. The horse was running well at Gulfstream, which is, just an entirely different surface than the rest of them. But he's one. I mean, he plots out perfect, right? Like, if you think that there's not going to be a ton of speed here, I think he plots out pretty well here. Did either of you guys give this 6 a look at all?
I gave him a little bit of a look. I mean, he's an interesting from, sort of a race flow dynamics type of standpoint. He should be in front of Elite Power, as they kind of turn for home. I don't really think he's good enough to win this, but he's in really good form right now. So, I think if I was playing this race, I would probably, try to do something like get an exacta where maybe I put elite power on top and then trying to get like a Dean Delivers or maybe like a Little Vic or somebody like that. One of these sort of weird horses that clings on for second at a big price with that kind of a play. So I don't think I can put him in the winner's circle. I don't think I have a good argument to make why he could win this race, but I do think he's the kind of horse that's really interesting underneath.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably not for me. His numbers actually do kind of fit in here, but kind of like Optics pointed out, I think he had a just beyond perfect setup in each of his last two. I don't know that I really trust Michael Yates to get Dean Delivers to kind of transfer that form out of Gulfstream up to Saratoga. Waters are a lot deeper here, so I'm not going to knock anyone for trying him at a nice price, but he's probably not for me.
Now, if only who's the jockey that Yates uses in Gulfstream and they win it like a crazy amount? Miguel Vasquez. Miguel Vasquez instead of Jaramillo came up. Maybe we got a little Yates Vasquez thing there, but yeah, I don't think the plot really shows anything that we kind of didn't already know. I think it kind of agrees with my pace assessment here that I think the 5 kind of gets first jump on the speed. It's basically whether or not Elite Power is good enough to pass. He might be good enough, and I don't know how much I'm really playing this race. I mean, I think this is part of the late sequence, but I don't know. The late sequence doesn't really, with this race in it, doesn't really do much for me. So
I think you just take your single and you try to find prices other places, and that's how I would approach the late pick 5.
So I look forward to finding a 20-1 I like that wins and losing because I didn't use Elite Power.
You didn't use Elite Power?
Yeah.
Yes. So as the world turns.
So I'm looking forward to that. Anything else you guys want to talk about in here?
No, not for me.
Shout out to Steven. That was a record time for us in a it was a 7-horse field. Even though there's only really two horses. You were going to say, Mark? Sorry.
Yeah, the other thing was I did mention Little Vic real quick. He's a horse I am a touch interested in. If you cross off all of his 7 furlong races, just look at the 6 furlong trips, his form massively improves. So that's it. Don't think he can win, but he's a neat underneath horse.
It wouldn't be the first time that Little Vic got a prominent horse player in trouble. Shout out Vic Stoffer.
No, we got it.
We got it. It was just terrible, so neither one of us laughed.
So Caleb started. It looked like he was like panning the room, like trying to think, but he was just like looking for the exit.
I was doing the eye roll and ignore it, and hopefully it just goes by and we can move on and pretend it never happened.
Well, make sure you like and subscribe if you hated that joke or liked it. Who cares? Race 10 here, the Jim Dandy. I saw Tommy came in firing, asking if the Jim Dandy matters anymore, and Mark obviously said yes. But
argument was it was just the Travers matter. And if the Travers matters, then the Jim Dandy matters because 50% of Travers winners win the Jim Dandy as a prep.
Where's Road Warrior at? I need someone to Google that.
Yeah, I know.
Google it. Go ahead. Where's Road Warrior at? It goes back about 100 years. It goes back till, I don't know, whenever. It's roughly 50%. It's not quite. It's like 47 or something. But I think this race does matter. Is this the field that we wanted to see show up for it? No, of course it's not. We wanted some of the other major players to be here, but they're not. And I can't fault them for whatever, ducking the field or whatever you want to call it. But it's an interesting race. I think Saudi Crown, being a late entry into this, really spiced up what would have been a kind of a weak 4-horse field, albeit it's still not the best race ever. But there's some interesting players here.
I would go as far
as
to say this is a better than average Saratoga Stakes race. Because they're all going to have 5 horses or 4 to 6 horses anyway. And that's just how it is anymore. I mean, but at least in this race, it's not Nest versus Clairiere or, just like two horses and then two tomato cans, as the popular nomenclature goes these days. Like, at least in this case, I think you can make a legitimate case for all five runners. So, yeah, I'm disappointed in the 5-horse field, but that's just what Saratoga is at this point. And I mean, yeah, that's disappointing, but honestly, like relative to what Saratoga is, this is a better than average 3-year-old stakes race, not counting some goofy stuff like New York Breds.
I think it's also there's a certain conversation, which is probably an Andrew Champagne type conversation, which is that the horses we're breeding today aren't horses that get this trip. Look at the fields in the Amsterdam versus something like the Jim Dandy, and you can see what we're breeding. We're breeding horses that get 6 and 7 furlongs, and that's partly why you're not seeing as many horses subscribed here.
I mean, let's not pretend like the Vanderbilt drew 12 horses. I mean, it has 7.
No, you're not wrong there. But no, I mean, there are other races that are G1s at Saratoga that do draw better fields.
There's too many stakes races. Yeah. That's my
Agreed. That's correct.
Agreed. Get rid of the Curlin Stakes. It is nothing but just a absolute cannibalizes the fields for the Jim Dandy, for the Haskell. It doesn't need to exist. Where is First Mission at? Where are some of these other horses that would actually make sense in here?
There's other stakes. Peter Pan. There's a lot of other
many stakes races, and there's such a small concentration of owners that have horses at this level, at this highest level of the game. Yeah, of course, you're not going to see them run against each other. I mean, Brad Cox has 3/5 of this field. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and also to Tommy's point here, there's a thing where a lot of these big ownership groups, and I can name some names, but a lot of the big names that of have a certain win percentage. They basically tell their trainers, you need to be winning at 30% or I'm pulling my horses away from you. And that's made it so that trainers are aiming for softer spots. They're not taking shots in these big races. They would rather go run in a G3 where they can, get an easy win than face a competitive field. So, yeah, that's part of it as well.
I haven't done this before, but I kind of want to look at all of the graded stakes that exist, right? And just count them, right? Count like how many grade 1s are there, how many grade 2s, how many grade 3s? Because I feel like I don't know necessarily there's too many stakes races, but there's definitely too many G1s. I think that it really should be a humongous kind of like pyramid, right?
There are 108 G1s in the United States.
Yeah, there should be 25.
Yeah, you're not wrong. No, 25
you know what I mean?
No, you're right.
It just, I don't know, man. I just think that, and 25 may be a little light, because you got to think of all the divisions, but realistically, there shouldn't be more than 4 or 5 per division, right? I mean, they should be ones that horses point to, as opposed to, I don't know. We could talk all day about graded stakes. I tried to rile Caleb up before the stream, and he wasn't having it.
There's also a lot of other arguments, like the Preakness should be a G2 because look at the fields recently. There's a lot of things like that where it's, we have these legacies of, it's part of this series and we can't take its, whatever away. I mean, no, it's a different world.
Tommy says, apologies for the multiple comments, but he thinks it's the micro share groups that is killing these fields. I will tell you, my biggest issue with my racehorse is the fact that it's owned by, was it Spendthrift that owns them?
Yeah.
Dude, they're literally buying their own horses, and then inflating the price of it.
How it's legal.
They're intentionally inflating certain sires' stud fees, but
and then they're buying their own horses, and then they're not giving the owners a piece of the action. I don't know. I feel really gross about some of that. I full transparency, I do have a micro share in a horse for Wasabi. And they have all their offerings, right? They have their stuff, but they tell you up front, this is a racing only offering, this and it's super cheap. It's cheaper to get in because of that, because they know you're only involved in the racing, and that's all some people want, right? I mean, all the money is really in the breeding, but that's another thing. You were going to say something, Mark, though?
No, I mean, the fractionals are what they are. As long as you're getting into them and you know what you're getting into. The problem is most people think that, I own, 0.001% of this horse from my racehorse. That makes me equivalent to somebody who owns 25% of a, whatever. I'll use an example that I know of, a New York bred. No, it doesn't. You're not the same. I don't think the fractionals are killing anything because the fractionals, they have a narrative which they have, to keep that base that keeps buying in these fractional ownerships. They have to race their horses. So those fractional horses do run quite a bit, and they've purchased some very big names at sales, but they do run those horses. So I think at least they're not as focused on the breeding side as it's I simply run them so I can breed them. There is at least a little bit of we want to run them because we have to keep our stakeholders happy.
All that being said, we have a 5-horse field for the Jim Dandy. Caleb, I think you made a really good point. Any horse that wins this race, I would not be shocked, right? I'm not going to just be like, I can't believe this horse won this race. I think this is a very competitive 5-horse field. Like, obviously, there's horses in here that have a better shot to win. But like, for example, what Hit Show is 6-1. Is that the longest price? Are they co 6-1s? Yeah, and Disarm. I mean, I have Disarm as an A in this spot, but if Hit Show wins this race, and runs back to, probably runs back to his Belmont or maybe even the Kentucky Derby. I thought he ran a really nice race in the Kentucky Derby, in a small field, runs back to that. Yeah, he's absolutely got a shot to win here. So, I think it's a really interesting race. And I think you and I, Caleb, kind of landed on the same top pick. So, Mark, who did you like in here?
I don't know if I'll end up the same ones as you guys, but I think it's a 2-horse race for me. I know Josh was saying he thinks any horse in here can win, and I just don't. I think it's really a 2-horse race. If you think that Saudi Crown can stretch out and can get the distance, Saudi Crown's your horse. I am a little bit questionable over whether or not he can stretch out. So I went back to the well that I've beaten kind of to death at this point. That's Angel of Empire. I think Angel of Empire very well could have won the Derby if Flavien Prat wasn't freaking asleep at the wheel. And Flavien just moved dead ass late. And honestly, going in the Belmont Stakes probably a little further than his pedigree necessarily wants to go. I think he's getting back to a distance that he has proven himself at twice. I think he's got two wins going this trip, and I think he gets a little bit of pace up in front of him, which doesn't hurt his chances. So I think Angel of Empire is my top pick in here, and that's it.
So I'm going to go with a hot take. Angel of Empire is a takeout reducer in this field. I don't think he has a prayer. He'd be the first horse I'd throw out. And I'm just kind of done with him. I mean, after he's supposed to win the Kentucky Derby. I mean, say what you want, moving too late. I think the horse just has zero acceleration. That's kind of who he is. And in the Belmont, I mean, they put the blinkers on to get him more involved early, and he was just dead ass flat when it came time to run. I mean, and he dead heated with Hit Show, who's going to be 3 times the price and more tactically advantaged than Angel of Empire. So yeah, I don't like Angel of Empire at all on here, and that's a horse that I've been a fan of for most of his career. But I don't like the direction his form has gone. I don't like what I've been seeing. I don't like the way he was just very one-paced with the blinkers on in the Belmont. So I don't like him at all. I will say I do like Saudi Crown. I do share Mark's concern that the distance. It is a concern for sure. This doesn't necessarily scream 9 furlongs, although Always Dreaming did win the Kentucky Derby. Tap it on the bottom clearly provides some stamina as well. But this is a horse that's undefeated around, not around one turn, but undefeated at sprint distances. And then he was beaten by Fort Bragg last time, but they were a dozen lengths clear of the rest of the field. I guess that comes down to what do you really think of Fort Bragg? I'm not sure how good he really is, but he might be good. I know Josh really likes this horse. He might just be that good. I don't know. What I do know is the time form figure for that race came back extremely impressive. I mean, by far the fastest figure that anyone has run in this field. It's a 128, with the next closest figure a 123, I believe. So yeah, I think Saudi Crown is he comes in with a massive tactical advantage. He's textbook lone speed in here. If he can get the distance, which I'm willing to bet that he can at 5-2, I think he's a huge player. So he's definitely my top pick.
I was confused. There was so many horses, and then I realized that we got to skip a race.
Josh, you had one job. Yeah.
Yeah. The Saudi Crown. I mean, this is a this is a little
That is a
textbook
Josh
loan
special
speed.
if I've ever
That's
seen
a
one.
Josh horse. Have you ever seen one in optics form? I do remember there was one night where Caleb was like, "Oh my god!" As soon as Josh opens the optics for this horse, like I'm afraid of how much money he might lose
Take
on
my
this horse.
money.
I forgot what horse it was, but
I
it
don't
was
remember.
basically all. I mean, that it was a lone Q1 square, like all the way up here at the top of the plot. But yeah, I think that Saudi Crown is going to have a tactical advantage in here. My top pick in this race, and I kind of felt like if I was going to take a shot with another horse, it was going to be the one Disarm in this spot. I know these horses that have been shipping over from Ellis Park have not necessarily been firing, but I don't know. I feel like Disarm has run a couple of pretty nice races. Especially ran a pretty nice race there in the Kentucky Derby, finishing fourth. And I mean, he came from way the heck out of it. And then he got business done in the Matt win. It was over the slop, but beat a pretty nice horse in Verifying in that race. Comes back at the same distance here. And so there's not really a concern about distance with this horse like there might be with Saudi Crown. And I don't know. I kind of wanted a horse, an off the pace horse that wasn't basically Forte or Angel of Empire. Kind of left me with obviously either Disarm or Hit Show. And I just thought Disarm was kind of coming in with a little bit more upside, since he hasn't really been going against all these horses like some of the rest of them have. I mean, obviously ran in the Derby, but went to Ellis Park, got business done against horses he probably should have beat. Ran a nice Brisfig in there. So I don't know. Disarm is kind of my second choice in this spot, but I'll be very heavily leveraged through the 4 Saudi Crown in this spot.
It feels completely dirty. And Josh, I looked at Disarm. I don't think he's impossible by any stretch. And at the prices, I think he's worth including. I'd probably prefer Hit Show of the 2 longer priced horses in this race rather. But I have nothing against Disarm. I think he's fine. It kills me to say this, but I actually think Forte is in here with a big chance. And this is a horse that I have hated for most of his career.
Are you feeling okay?
I know.
Seriously.
It's tough, right? But he ran the best race in the Belmont, and he ran it off of an unplanned layoff, off a big layoff, going a distance that's I still think is probably too far. I mean, but he looked absolutely dead in the turn. I mean, he was getting worked on, just not responding. The whole field pretty much passed him. And then he repassed horses like Angel of Empire and Hit Show, not Hit Show, who's always in front, but Angel of Empire and Tap It Trice, and basically everybody else. And he was making up ground late. And I've not been a Forte fan for a long time, but I was impressed with his effort in the Belmont, going a distance that I think is too far. This distance doesn't worry me as much. He has that start under his belt, kind of off that layoff. He's going to be the favorite, so it's not like I'm excited to bet him. And I still may just leverage completely through Saudi Crown. But, yeah, Forte, I think he's in here with a big shot. And this is not a horse I've routinely liked, but I was impressed with his last effort. And I feel like, knowing that you two probably weren't going to mention him, that he deserves mentioning.
Okay, how many lengths will he be behind the field at first call?
With the blinkers going on, I'm not sure he'll be that much farther behind. I mean, he's probably going to be ahead of Angel of Empire and Disarm, so it depends where you think they sit.
Uncle Sully is asking for a urine test on Caleb.
He's clearly consumed some substance, which is broken Caleb. Pretty soon he's going to pick all chalk and like a pick 5.
I mean, I'm not Josh.
No, that's me.
Yeah, that is Josh, yeah.
Yeah, Forte, what's in your bloodstream? Breeders' Cup's at Del Mar this year, right? Is that a 1-turn mile or 2-turn mile?
2-turn mile.
2-turn mile? I was going to say, well, that might be the spot Forte ends up in, right? Breeders' Cup mile.
I mean, I know he's a violence horse, but I love how we're talking about him as like he can't get the distance, as if he didn't run a fast closing second in the Belmont. Like, I mean, pedigree be damned. Like, maybe this horse is fine at that distance. I mean, I didn't like him at it until I saw him do it, but I'm not going to keep clinging to an angle that has sort of been debunked.
Well, I think the miler thing is coming from the fact that he's Tacitus 2.0, and Tacitus did his best stuff at a mile.
That's Tapit Trice.
Yeah, you're thinking of the wrong horse.
Tapit Trice is Tacitus 2.0.
Sorry.
Who finished third.
What's the one that ran the really crazy fast mile?
Crazy fast mile.
Who's
This
the
year?
Tapit? Hold on.
Oh, God.
This year or like in years past?
Mark is making references to horses that probably ran before I even followed horse racing.
We just did the wrong race. I don't know. I'm thinking of Frosted. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, Frosted.
Another
before my time.
Tappet. Sorry, before Josh's time. I was thinking of another Tappet. My bad.
Yeah, Frosted, the kind of shitty sire. Yeah, I know that horse. Yeah, so let's also not look at that race and see that Forte got beat by looks like Rich Strike and finished third to Tacitus there. So in the Belmont. So you think we see Arcangelo run ever again?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just like we thought we're going to see Country House run again.
No, none of us actually thought we were going to see Country House run again.
Our friends at
I'll be very
our friends at Optics saying the BC's at Santa Anita,
which is still a 2-turn mile, but yeah.
Oh, there you go. Whatever. We were half right.
Yeah, corrected by Emily. Ouch. No,
I mean, somebody's got to be smart around here. Because
no,
sure the heck
she's
not
clearly
us.
the smart one, and we are.
I got something in the bloodstream, so.
I mean, yeah. We've already talked this. So Caleb, let's just go back to it. Who's your top pick?
Saudi Crown.
Mark.
Angel of Empire.
That's disgusting, dude. I hate. Look, I came in here knowing Mark was going to pick Angel of Empire. I did not come in here knowing that Caleb was going to like Forte. So maybe that's the bigger like surprise. But I don't know. Angel of Empire just feels like the horse that should have at this point won one of these races.
Caleb,
but
what price do you get on Forte in this race? Because it's not 7-5.
Oh, I think it is. I think it'll be
that short.
I think so. Oh, you mean him be higher?
Oh yeah, I think he'll.
Oh yeah, okay. I thought you meant he was going to be shorter. I'm like, I don't think he's going to be odds on or even money. I mean, I could see Forte being 8-5, 9-5, 2-1. I don't think he'll be shorter than 3-2. So somewhere between 3-2 and 2-1, maybe.
My thought would be Saudi Crown and Angel of Empire. Your two short prices. I would think.
I don't think anyone's going to bet Angel of Empire. Honestly, I think he'll be 7-2. I think Saudi Crown will take a beating though. I think he'll be the second choice in here, if not arguably the favorite. But I think Forte has too many fans to not be favored.
No, Sully, I did not say New York bred. I said Tappet that ran the fast mile.
Am I just looking at the wrong day? I'm trying to find this. Do we got overseas odds on this yet?
I'll check Bovada, but I doubt it. I haven't been posting it up very much.
Saturday. International. Nope, I only see Australia. But yeah, I don't know. This is... I don't know. This late sequence with these two short races just doesn't look like a spot to really play. But I don't know. I'll probably be leveraged mostly through Saudi Crown. I'll have Disarm kind of as a B type. The plot really does like Disarm a bit here as a pretty big square here, similar to what Forte kind of sits at. So that was part of my thinking here, trying to get a little bit of value. So I'll probably have some type of Saudi Crown over Disarm, Exacta going as well. But yeah, I mean, Angel of Empire definitely does not look great on the plot. So good luck, Mark. Although we know that the plot's not everything, but it's a lot. It's actually been really good at Del Mar, to be honest with you. Yeah. But
those are the plots I struggle with when you get a snowflake contention, but a fast speed rating. Those are always a little bit tricky for me.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just because Saudi Crown is stretching out.
Yeah, I mean, he brings legit sprint speed, which is maybe why I think it's going to be fast.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, let's move on to Del Mar here. We'll take a look at this late pick 4, just to shout out to Optics there for allowing us to use these. We got a link in the description. It just goes to the regular website, but just check them out at opticseq.com. And obviously Emily is. I hope to be able to shit post as good as Emily one day.
You've a long way to go.
Dude,
I just
you,
love
you
it.
are the biggest troll I know, and her troll game absolutely towers.
I mean,
over
I
you.
just-
she is ice cold and just phenomenal. She is so good.
I don't know. Like sometimes, like between her and occasionally DeRosa, like I'm just like, man, like I got my work cut out for me to try and shit post with the best of them there. But yeah, San Diego handicap going a mile and 16th here on the dirt, and you get the Ghost of Royal Ship in here. You got Tripoli Pacific Classic winner, Tripoli, which I believe that was the big key. Was that the big key in your dad's pick 5 at Saratoga? Was that the Tripoli weekend, Caleb?
I can't remember. It might be.
But I mean, really, I think this race kind of starts and stops with what you think of the 6 Defunded. I do need to go to our expert on all things Juan Hernandez, which is Mr. Caleb Knight. Caleb, what do you think of Defunded?
I think he's just tons the horse to beat in here. A legitimate single, I think, if you wanted to go there. I think he'll be tough. I mean, he doesn't need the lead, which I think is important in this race because for some reason Craig Lewis is stretching out Brickyard Ride. I don't really know what the plan is there, but this is a horse that is just insanely quick. I don't really think he has a prayer to carry his speed a mile and a 16th against this quality field. But anyone who likes to be on the front is in for a rude awakening when they realize Brickyard Ride's in here. So Defunded, though, when he unintentionally came from last 2 back in the California because he blew the brake, showed he doesn't need the lead. So as long as Juan can give a patient ride here, he's definitely on the horse to beat with Defunded.
We do have another celebrity. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Matthew DeSantis from Naira Bets is in chat saying he's got some time to tune in and listen. He did say the new gig is going great. Everyone's been wonderful, and they've been open to trying so many new things. My question is, has Matthew drank that water yet at Saratoga?
Well, I mean, if they're open to trying new things, have you asked Andy to stop being an asshole? Just, throwing it out there. Really? Was it that bad? Come on.
Looks like his boss.
Yeah, I know, right? Like yeah. Let's get the guy in trouble right away. Jeez, Mark, have some tact.
But it's Andy.
Speaking of Andy, who kind of does look a little good on the plot. It's the one horse slowdown Andy.
Mm-hmm. You hadn't gotten me yet, Josh.
No, is that you like slowdown Andy in here, Mark?
I do like slowdown Andy quite a bit in here. Yeah.
Talk to me, Mark.
And I think Defunded is. Caleb made all the case for Defunded. Completely, 100% agree with Caleb. Defunded is the best horse in the race. But slowdown Andy has got a lot of speed. Doug O'Neill has been absolutely stellar at Del Mar. So far this meet, he's winning at 24% and winning on a bunch of prices and illogical horses who've taken a step forward. Slowdown Andy happens to be perfect at this distance. He has never missed the exacta in obviously his 2 starts at Del Mar. And, I think you can kind of draw some lines through those couple of trips he took east where he was probably just facing better company in both the dirt mile and the Met handicap. This is a bit of class relief for him as well. So I think Slowdown Andy is an interesting player here. O'Neill Barn is just absolutely firing. Mark Gutierrez is having a good meet so far as well, and I think he's an interesting player, especially if you get around that morning line. I don't know how you use him. If you make him an A type on it's just a value play with if Defunded gets really overly bet in here, or is he the type that you kind of do an A B? I didn't feel like I needed any more than 2 horses in this race, so maybe I make Slowdown Andy my lone B, and I think he's a major player in here. He needs his best. He definitely needs his best, and he needs to get the trip. But yeah, he's a major player here.
I would love Slowdown Andy in this race if Brickyard Ride comes to his senses and goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
But doesn't it just sort of feel like I mean, if you've paid any
They
attention to
burn
Del
each other up on the
Mar,
front end, and it comes apart,
speed has
and it
not
sets
been
up to
great.
funded. Yeah.
Yeah, speed has not been great. The rail has been completely dead at Del Mar. And Sled on Andy has both. I mean, it really just feels like the cards are stacked against him in this race. So that's kind of my big hesitation about going there. Is the rail has looked terrible, and speed has not been very good. And he's not going to get the lead, which is probably where he's the best. So I think the race sets up very much against him, which is my biggest problem with Sled on Andy.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thought as you. I mean, obviously the first, when I saw Brickyard Ride showing up here, I clearly I looked. I'm like, I see an E8, and not just any E8. It's a 6 furlong E8 going a mile and 16th. But I don't know. They've tried. I mean, they've won going a mile, but that was obviously against State Bred and the Tiz Now last year. So I don't know if all of a sudden Craig Lewis thinks that this one's going to go be able to get that extra half furlong against graded stakes company when the horse is kind of off form. The last couple starts. And I think even if you kind of go back at this horse's fastest races, I think they're still not fast enough to kind of win here. I kind of agree with Caleb. I think that Defunded is pretty much unless we do get a scratch of the 10 Brickyard Ride in here, I think Defunded just kind of a single and move on. If the 10 does scratch out, I think you do need to use the 1. Slow down Andy. I think if Brickyard Ride scratches out, though, you're probably not going to get anywhere near 5-1. You're probably going to get much less than that. But yeah, Uncle Sully's asking about the plot here again, and I'll pull it back up. And you got a nice little Q1 square here. But once again, you kind of see here, you get a fire contention. You got a speed rate of 35 or 34. So it's there's going to be some pace up front. I forget the number, but generally like 35 to 40 is when I kind of start thinking like, okay, maybe there's a chance, it's going to kind of shift more to the middle to back end of the plot. And if that's the case, it kind of does set up for the 1 and the 6. Let's see if we got anything here in the notes. In the Met Mile, looks like he dueled. Now there is a red word here on the 6, Defunded, talking about bias. So it was obviously with the bias there in the Gold Cup, but I don't know if I put too much stock into that, just because I think the 6 is really the class of the field here. Really, the only horse in here that I did see on the notes, I did see on the plot that like made me just a little interested. Was this 7, Senor Buscador? Kind of looks, I mean, humongous Q4 square. And if you kind of go back through the notes, looks like he ran against the bias there in that Gold Cup, which was clearly forwardly placed there. Senor Buscador has run some pretty nice races. I don't know. On Brisnet, he doesn't look fast enough, Mark or Caleb. You guys, I know you use other products for speed figures. I mean, how much do you think we got to make up here on Senor Buscador to be in the mix here?
I mean, I'm making a case for Sled on Andy, so Senor Buscador is not that much slower than Sled on Andy, a point or two. My thing is that where he's shown up and sort of done his best running is definitely a sort of B and C tier sort of situations. I mean, he ran the ACAC. That was a nice race, but it's been kind of the Sunland Parks of the world. He ran a nice race at Lone Star. It just seems like this is a little classier than what he tends to show his best at.
Yeah, I could see the case for Senor Buscador here. He was kind of if Defunded is kind of a lone A, Buscador would be like a C for me, maybe. I think he has some legit excuses in a few of his last races, but he does need to find a few points for sure.
I mean, that Oaklawn handicap, Proxy came back and looked pretty good that last time out,
What I thought was interesting in here, and I don't know how he plots out necessarily, but if Defunded runs back to the races that we're accustomed to seeing him run on time form, that's something between a 122 and a 125. There's really only one horse in here that realistically has a chance to run to that, and that's the number 2, Royal
Royal
Ship.
Ship.
And he's not an easy horse to trust, right? He's a 7-year-old gelding, and he tends to do a little bit better at Santa Anita versus Del Mar. They seem to be really grasping at straws with him lately, putting him on turf and then synthetic. He doesn't really handle either. Was beaten as the even money favorite last out. I mean, there's a lot of things not to like, but the works seem really good. Richard Mandela's barn has been quite hot. Mike Smith has found the fountain of youth and has been riding quite well. And there's more than one race in this horse, as recently as last year, that is good enough to win this race, especially if Defunded gets cooked up front a little bit and they decide to use more forwardly placed tactics. If I'm going to have a second horse in this race after Defunded, it probably would be Royal Ship, simply because he's proven to be able to compete with Defunded on his day.
Yeah, I was just say, his what was it, the San Diego last year, was a very, very nice race. He probably needs it to get a little bit spicy up front, but given a couple of horses that drew in it, very well might get that way. It seems like that race, at least from a time form perspective, was his just about one of the best races ever run with quite a bit of pace help up front. So I agree with Caleb. It's just he's a hard horse to trust. He's never an A type on a ticket for me, maybe a B type, but yeah, there's a little interest there.
If Royal Ship wins this race, I think it'll be the third time that he's all of a sudden turned into the best West Coast handicap horse. Because I swear we've said this like 3 times where he wins a race and he's just like, oh, that's gonna be it. And he just kind of like disappears for a couple of months and then just never comes back to it. So
he's good to boom your tickets once a year. You just got to figure out when that once is.
Oh man. Anything else in this race?
So he's channel maker on dirt then.
It's been a while for channel maker, but that's all from me, Josh.
All right. Race 9 here. We got a optional claimer going 1 mile on the turf. We got a very, very full field here. We got a couple also eligibles, 13 and 14, but the 1 through 12 kind of drew in. Your morning line favorite is the 4 Impact Warrior at 5-2, Ultimate High, the 9 at 3-1, and then you kind of get mid prices and up from there. Mark, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, so my top choice needs a little bit of help with this one scratch in the field to draw in, and that is the 13 horse, Harper's Gallop. His last race was really nice. It's the first time Juan has ever been up on him. Juan had a bunch of choice and other horses in this field, and decides to land on Harper's Gallop instead. Leonard Powell's barn has been absolutely filthy hot. He's 3 of 7 on the meet so far. If this horse gets any help and draws into this field, I think he's an absolutely massive player. And my God, I hope I get 6-1 on a horse like that. He's my top choice in here by an absolute mile. My other horses that I liked are all kind of prices in this field. I felt like there was a lot of horses in here that just don't really love winning. And there's a lot of horses that are going to probably take money on connections that I just didn't really love. So Harper's Gallop's my top. I'll let you guys talk about horses, and then I'll loop back to one I liked.
Yeah, I also like the 13 quite a bit in this spot. One horse that I like at a huge price is this 6, Le Deuxième et
That's my other horse.
You guys love this. I will never understand your infatuation with this horse.
Yep.
Why did they put this horse on dirt?
Yeah.
I do not understand why they went to dirt. The horse obviously regressed hugely once they put the horse on dirt. Coming back to turf, I don't know. I think coming back to turf is a great spot for this horse. You're getting 20-1 on the morning line for Doug O'Neill. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised this horse gets bet down quite a bit just because of the way Doug's barn's been going. But I don't know, man.
If you cross out all those dirt races, his turf races fit in this field really, really well. I don't understand the dirt experiment. If it was just they needed places to run, I have no idea because they have turf in the winter there. So it makes absolutely no sense what they did. But with Doug's barn firing, a big price, connections that I think are good. I realize he doesn't have a win at Del Mar, but I think he's a major player with just how hot the O'Neill barn's been.
In fairness to Caleb, I did bet this horse on dirt, so I understand why he's concerned. But
Yeah, I mean, the horse is 2 for 19. It's not like he was a win machine on the turf. And he ran fine in his first 2 starts on dirt. He had 2 second place finishes, so you can't be like he hates the surface. I think he was just, or she was just rather very over raced, and the wheels kind of fell off. And something went wrong. It doesn't look like she's really back in form yet. Stepping up into open company, I think this is too tough. But she's
dirt off
20
the
to 1.
layoff.
So.
Dirt off the layoff. Isn't that an angle that people still use? I don't understand. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just
first
grasping
time
at straws
gelding with a
here.
bullet work.
Yeah, there we go. Well, yeah. So of course, since Mark likes that horse, I'm not going to get any kind of price on it. But obviously, this wouldn't be. Mark has tarnished my name. Has just been saying bad things about me behind my back. So I'm going back to the well here. We got the 3 cherry special here, the 11 horse speed lane. Yeah, I mean, we got some speed on here, and speed's been pretty good on the turf at Del Mar. So
I want to say that's absolutely not true.
no, am I
Yeah,
thinking
that's
I'm thinking
completely
Saratoga,
wrong.
aren't I?
Completely false.
You're thinking of
Speed's been
Saratoga
very
the last 2
bad at
days.
Del Mar, but I'm still gonna bet it.
Josh, you know who you are as a handicapper.
I-
You see an E8, you bet it.
I mean, when I looked at this race, obviously, this plot's a bit of a mess until we get a couple scratches. But I was looking at some forwardly placed horses in here. It's kind of how I latched onto the 13 to start there, and I thought the 11 was the best of the rest of the speed in this spot. I mean, if we're being completely honest, the 9 kind of plots out probably the best. Ultimate High, which is the second choice as of right now. So this horse will probably make my tickets in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, you get Rispoli aboard, who's been riding really well. Carla Gaines doesn't have a win on the meet yet as of this publication, but were you
So
gonna say,
I realize your 9 is probably going to go off as the favorite, and I don't want to dunk on you too badly, but oh my God, does this horse have a case of the hangs? This horse absolutely hates winning. Hasn't won since my form only goes back 12 races and hasn't had a win in the last 12. I mean, and this was my problem I had with this entire race. There are a bunch of these types of horses in this race who just haven't won in forever. Apparently, just love to hang, and they just never win. I mean. That's a horse that would just never make my ticket. I just would not use the horse.
I pick a 20 to 1, right? And then Caleb is like, I can't believe you guys like this horse. I pick a 3 to 1, and then noted chalk eater Mark is just all over me like,
So I'm becoming
this
Caleb,
horse
is what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, Caleb, who do you like?
Oh boy, I'm afraid to say anything now. So I thought this race was actually. It's hard to. I don't want to say on the chalky side because I did have 2 horses at huge prices that I like. I did like both the 4 and the 9 in here. Josh, to speak to your 9 Ultimate High, I mean, yeah, the horse ran second 3 times in a row. Very well might have a case of the hangs. Did have legitimate trouble, not in the dirt race, but in the last 3 turf races. I mean, or even 4 turf races. Like very, very legitimate trouble. 2 back in that Santa Anita race on May 29th. Ran second to Anisette, who came back to win a stakes race on opening weekend. Comfortably win a stakes race. I mean, she crushed that field. So the company kept is strong. I mean, the class is there, I think. It's just a matter of getting this mare to dodge some of the trouble that she has a tendency to find. And some horses do just create their own trouble, so that's certainly a risk with her. I do think Impact Warrior, the 4, I mean, shipping over from Ireland makes sense. The time form figures are close without adjusting for, US versus UK. And generally, if they're close, when they come here, they run much better. So I think Impact Warrior is very lively. I'm a little bit skeptical about why Kent's up. And I like Kent's, don't get me wrong, but that's not really a guy that D'Amato typically goes to. I mean, I'm kind of thinking Rispoli or D'Amato or Hector or not D'Amato, Vasquez there's a lot of guys that I would expect to see up. Hernandez before Kent.
Even Fresu or somebody.
Yeah, before Kent. So I'm a little bit unsure what to think of that. So the horse that I kind of want to, I guess, talk about that I think Josh might appreciate it at least is the number 5, Gimme Mo Baby, ridden by Josh's favorite jockey out west, Jose
Valdivia Jr., Belmont Stakes winning jockey, Jose Valdivia Jr.
So I actually like this horse because I think he gets completely dismissed by the connections, because of the connections rather. And I think she's sitting on a nice racing here. I mean, that last race going 6.5 down the hill at Santa Anita just absolutely screams prep race. I don't think she was cranked for that. I mean, she's never been a down the hill horse. Pretty much they tried her once at Kentucky Downs for the purse money and then knew this is a two-term filly. They've stretched her out, and she's run fairly well in most of those starts. She has a win where she broke her maiden at this trip, at this course last year at Del Mar, and then went on over to Kentucky Downs where she ran fine, a decent fifth, and then came back to Santa Anita in a great 3 and ran a pretty good fourth. I mean, was within a half length or so turning for home and just got run down late by a pretty nice California mare, Rhea Moon. Came back last out. I don't care about that down the hill race. I think it's a prep. And I think second off the layoff, she could be kind of sneaky in a race where I do think some of the shorter prices are a little bit vulnerable. Kind of like, why is Kent up for the Euro Shipper? Is the 9 going to find trouble? Like, I think you can poke holes. I mean, like the 11 speed's been terrible on turf. I pulled up the stats. 58% of winners at Del Mar have been more than 4 lengths off the pace at the first call. So closers have dominated at Del Mar. So yeah, I tend to think, maybe this 5 just kind of gets overlooked in a race where you can poke hole in the shorter prices. I think the 5 could be kind of sneaky in here.
And if you like chest hair and plastic, well, let me tell you, you got a horse here owned by Ivorone, and was it? I forgot who it is, but Michael Ivorone owns this horse, so
you gotta love Michael Ivorone. You just have to love him.
I mean,
he's awesome.
Like, where is he from? Because
Florida. He's South
Florida. Okay,
yeah.
It's like if Florida and New Jersey just had I don't know. He just screams that.
No, you are spot on. He's exactly what you would. He is like peak Jersey Shore.
Okay, so Fighting Irish, he says he likes this. He loves the 6 pick. So I'll be sure to make sure to no longer post my Cinnaboya Downs picks, but I will DM them to you. So as a bonus there, thank you for agreeing. Uncle Sully here asking about the 12 Shocking Gray. You guys look at this one off with Hector the God Barrios aboard here.
I only looked at it because it's Hector and Jeff Mullins, and I love me some Hector, just the god of the grass, Lord of the Lawn, Hector Barrios. But the horse needs to get a lot better than what we've seen. So yeah, I mean, not impossible. I mean, could make my ticket, but not one that I immediately gravitated towards.
It's a horse that would probably make my ticket if I was playing a pick 4 or pick 5. I would have a hard time leaving that one off. Although Hector hasn't been as good on him as I would have hoped. It seemed like, sort of Juan had this horse figured out. I don't know, maybe just they got classier and it fell apart. But a horse that I would be very interested, would be remiss to let that horse miss my tickets. But Barrios would probably need a absolute turf Jesus ride, and he does do those on occasion.
I will say, Caleb, one of the interesting things you were talking about, the 5, how that last race you thought might be a prep. Optics note also has noted here a green word, prep. Also, same thing with our 6 has got prep and turf on here. So, interesting to note here that I don't know if Emily's the one who's watching the West Coast stuff, but whoever does also kind of noted the same thing you did, that those might be preps.
The same way.
So Caleb, just for scientific research and all, I need your take on this 3 Rebel Girl. Any love for some Rebel Girl?
No, I think it's too far.
Okay, cool. So I'll single the 3. Got it. Cool.
Yeah, I mean the horse has good figures, and it's Juan and Leonard Powell. I mean, and whatever else, but 3 tries at a mile, had every chance and just flattened and got past late. Despite what the pedigree would suggest, it just seems like at this stage of her career, it's too far.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I was sort of scratching my head why Juan was here versus a couple other spots he probably could have been on horses if he wanted to be. I thought it was an interesting sort of, why are you here? But yeah.
Speaking of, yeah, I think you mentioned it before, Mark, talking about how it was interesting that Kent was aboard for the D'Amato,
Yep.
but Frezu, Antonio
Yep.
Frezu gets aboard here on the 10, and Fighting Irish is asking if the 10 was interesting to anybody here.
I don't. Pedigree wise and sort of what's happened so far, I don't see why going further helps this horse. Um, I, I like the connections, obviously, but I don't know why the added distance necessarily moves this trip up.
I mean, I think the added distance is the only reason to like this horse because of the
Okay.
pedigree. So I mean, I would probably take the opposite angle of that. I mean, best race of the horse's career came going a mile, in September over in Europe. So I think more ground is better. Maybe not a mile and a quarter, but I mean, I think a mile will certainly suit. But the tendency to break slow, I don't know that she's good enough to beat this field if she's spotting them 4 lengths at the start. That's what kind of makes me nervous. But I think she'll improve in this.
No, I respect that. I do respect that.
All right, let's move on because it sounds like we got the entire field covered in that race. But race 10. Before we move on, Del Mar, we're in week 2, and the fields are holding. We got some big fields, so especially if you you like taking 7 hours to handicap a card. Del Mar is for you. It takes me like 15 minutes to get through the card, which is just like,
It's like 13 minutes more than usual.
yeah, exactly. So
I was just say 14 minutes and 30 seconds longer than usual.
but yeah, the feature race here, the Bing Crosby, which Caleb definitely pointed out at some point as I don't think we have a horse problem because the Bing Crosby drew this many horses. Maybe it's a Saratoga problem, but yeah, we got a full field of 12 here in this race, and I don't know, this race looked a little chalky to me. That maybe you guys kind of disagree, but I kind of think it starts and stops with the 4 horse, the Chosen Vron in this spot. 4-1. He's 4-1 on the line. I think there's a couple of horses at 4-1. I think Dr. Shivel is 7-2 is kind of your lukewarm favorite in this spot. But I think the Chosen Vron, obviously coming in here, what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 straight wins. So. And he's been doing it on multiple surfaces. He's been doing it going 6 furlongs, going 7, going a mile. Just a very, very versatile horse here. Has all been in state bred company, so it is kind of moving up. Is moving up in class here. But I don't know. The horse seems to fit on figures. The horse is just a win machine. You get Hector Barrios staying aboard here. So I don't know. I kind of thought the race kind of started here. I think I have 2 other horses as B's, but Caleb, where did you kind of land?
Yeah, I think you started with the horse that I think is the most interesting horse in the race. And I don't know what to think of the Chosen Vron. On raw speed figures, he's fast enough to win. He's clearly a win machine, like you pointed out. He's quite good. He's proven at a multitude of distances from 6 furlongs up to a mile. He has speed. He can close. There's a ton to like about this horse, which leads me to thinking, like, why did it take him that long to get to this level? I mean, if this horse is beating Calbreds by 1 length, 3 lengths, 5 lengths, 6 lengths repeatedly, I mean, 6, 7, 8 wins in a row, dirt, turf, why is he being managed so carefully in these Calbred races to just come in and plunder some purses? I mean, why not throw him into better races? Why not? Even if you don't want to ship him, it's not like there's a shortage of races that are a little better than what he's been up against. The one time they tried it in the Pat O'Brien, he didn't really show up. So I don't know. I guess is kind of my answer that maybe he's better at 5. I mean, surely he seems like he's been better, but I also wonder if he's just kind of beating up on what is largely the same group of horses. So I like him, I respect him, but he's not a horse that I would say the race starts and stops because of more of the intangibles of the way he's campaigned kind of give me some heartburn. With that being said, I mean, I do agree with Josh's initial sentiment that the race feels chalky. I think the 4, 7, and 11 all look good in here. I don't really get the line on Spirit of McKenna. That's a horse that 4-1 that I don't think I want. I mean, anywhere. Like the record is good, but the horse is just kind of slow. At least on most of the figures I'm looking at, needs to run faster to win for sure, and is one of the favorites. Not a horse I want, but between the 4, 7, and 11, I think they all have races that are fast enough to win. I think the 7 is the one you're most likely to get a decent price on, so maybe I'll kind of start there with Anarchist. The main knock on this horse is that he does have a tendency to settle for second place. 2 wins, 6 second place finishes. And it just kind of depends. I mean, okay, you can't really knock him for running second against Elite Power, who is easily the best sprinter in the country. But it's a little bit harder to forgive him for running second to, Brickyard Ride, Spirit of McKenna, who I just dunked on, and then another horse in an optional 50 at Santa Anita, who I don't even know. So it's like, yeah, there's question marks about the consistency of Anarchist as well. But I do think that on paper, on a number off figures, he fits. And the other one is Dr. Shivel, who loves Del Mar, loves this distance, clearly found the 1 mile distance in the Met Mile too far against a field that's too good. He was on top of a pace that fell apart. So I'm not really going to hold that against him. He's quite good. I mean, he's quite a talented horse. He won the Breeders' Cup. I'm sorry, the Breeders' Cup. He ran second in the Breeders' Cup to Aloha West. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think he's good. I don't love him as the favorite, but it feels like a race where I struggle to make a case for any of the outsiders. I think it is one of the top 3 or 4 choices, but it's hard to latch on to any one of them in particular.
Yeah, so there's probably no horse in training that I like less. That I should say absolutely despise more than Dr. Shivel. That horse is just my God, the number of times he just wasn't fast enough on paper and decided to win anyways, or there've been I've dunked on him enough times on stream that he's become what Channel Maker is to Caleb.
You really have.
He's chasing that figure for 2 years, and yeah, I can never get on the right side of him. He can beat me. He can just straight up beat me for no real good reason because he does make sense on paper. I agree with you guys a lot. Chosen Vron makes a lot of sense. I don't know if they were just worried about the class or why they were doing what they were doing with him. But my God, is he ever a win machine? And he does love cashing checks. And he's been, when you pay $3,500 for a sire fee and the horse makes you $792K on the track, that's not a bad ROI. So, maybe they were just, I kind of wonder if they were just keeping him in state bred ranks because they could run him a lot and he just was kicking everyone's ass and he was printing checks and they were just happy to do that. But I think Chosen Vron's a major player in here, and I also landed on the 7 horse in here as my top choice, Anarchist. My take is in here that he is probably here because he is ducking Elite Power. I thought that if you watched that True North, he was super game. Joel Rosario did absolutely. This is peak Joel Rosario forgetting how to ride a horse when he went 0 for 42 or whatever it was at Belmont. And Joel invented everybody trouble he could coming around the corner, ran him up on heels twice, finally tipped him out, and he was getting to Elite Power late. Now, I don't know if Elite Power ever saw him coming. Elite Power is definitely geared down, but you watch that and you're like, wow, that horse, that was just very visually impressive. Yes, the horse does have a case of the hangs. You don't have 2 wins in 6 seconds unless you don't have a little case of the hangs. But I really like him here. O'Neill Barnes been firing. Seems like a horse that probably is on the upswing. If you look at his, at least on time form wise, he kind of runs a little faster every single race that he runs. And he doesn't actually need to get any faster to be a major player in here. So if he does take even a tiny little step forward, he's just a major player. And if he gets lost a little on the board and I get 4-1 or 5-1 on the horse that I think has the most upside, yeah, I'd be all about it. So Anarchist is my top choice, and that's nothing super creative in here.
I did have 2 other horses I kind of want to talk about. One is one that Charles mentioned. I'm assuming he says American, and that's a 10 American Theorem here. won this race last year, kind of closing into to a slow pace and won at a pretty decent price. He has not kind of run back, or well, he ran into Pat O'Brien, finished second to Laurel River, who was a nice horse there. And it just kind of looks like he's kind of either gone off form since then. They ran him in the BC Sprint, didn't do much running there, and then came back in an optional claimer in June, and as the even money favorite, just didn't run a step. So I don't know if that was just a prep or kind of what was going on there. But if you do kind of look at this race, you do see a bunch of kind of horses kind of bunched up on the plot there. And it does look like American Theorem is going to kind of get a pretty clean trip there from off the pace. So I thought he was a pretty interesting horse. Maybe one you just use underneath in like exactas and tries. But, if something gets stupid up front, I don't see any reason why the 10 American Theorem couldn't maybe clunk up and, close into kind of a fast pace. But the other horse, and I didn't even mark this down, but the other horse that I think maybe he's getting overlooked here a little bit, based off an angle that something that at least Mark and I and Caleb, I know you maybe something do or don't believe in it, but Sibelius, came back. They ran him overseas, won the Golden Shaheen, and then came back to Churchill and just completely, bounced, whatever you want to say. Got beat by Gun Night Bango and Tejano Twist, finishing fourth by 11 lengths in that race. But the build up to that Golden Shaheen was very, very good. So I don't know. This might be a horse that 6-1. I think is an interesting price on this horse that has won the Group 1 at Dubai, has won a couple of won the Mr. Prospector earlier this year, won a stakes race at Tampa, going 6, going 7. I don't know. I thought this was kind of an interesting horse here, kind of shipping in for Jeremiah O'Dwyer. But I don't know. Did you guys look at the 9 at all here?
Yeah, if nobody brought him up, he was the horse I was going to loop back to. For all the reasons you mentioned, if you believe the Dubai bounce and they needed one, he's he probably just needed the last. Jeremiah Dwyer is somebody who does not ship to the West Coast a ton. So I think it's really interesting that he is shipping this horse, to Del Mar. I really kind of wonder if he's shipping to avoid Elite Power. Which very well may be the case. But this horse got really good towards the end of, beginning of this year, end of last year. And, shipped him. And he, that Golden Shaheen was a freaking monster race. He beat Switzerland, who both Josh and I have a massive soft spot for. And, and then he just kind of bounced on his first back. I think, I think stepping forward in this race, I think he's I think he's a really interesting outsider, and I'd be really interested. I have the feeling he gets lost on the board. I think sometimes the local connections at Del Mar really take the money, and I sort of wonder if this is a horse that you get 8 or 10-1 on if he gets a little bit lost, and I'd be extremely interested in if that's the case.
Yeah, I liked him as well, Josh. Maybe not quite as much as you guys. I tend to think the Golden Shaheen, I think the rail was quite good that day, and I think he took advantage of a track bias to make him look a little better than he probably is. But I also think your point, is still valid, and that what he showed in that return race at Churchill is probably worse than he actually is. So I think the real Sibelius is somewhere in between, which, depending on who does and doesn't show up in here, he might be able to take this race. So yeah, I think he's okay. I would need a decent price though. I would probably need 10-1 to get there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up and runs a good race.
Last comment from chat before we move on. Uncle Sully asking about Hoist the Gold. I feel like this is the horse that we've chased numerous times, Caleb.
No way. I have chased him. You're right. But, like the field he beat last time was horrible. Horrible. He was supposed to beat that field by a dozen lengths. He beat them nonetheless. It's Ellis. It's speed favoring. He's got the dead rail here at Del Mar. Just absolutely not. I would need 40-1.
I do want to ask a question on one other horse because
Yeah.
this is Caleb's favorite jockey ever. Anybody give this 5 Kid Corleone a bit of a look? I mean, obviously we mentioned the O'Neill barn's been really good. I think Tiago has one way to go in this race, and that's just to go full send. And he's the inside drawn speed, so he should. I realize the rail has not been the place to be, but any chance this horse gets sent, gets a little bit brave on the front end, and holds on in this. He's trending upwards, figure wise, and the horse is 3 for 6 lifetime. I realize this is a massive class test, and he failed massively the last time he was given a class test, but that was quite a while ago.
Josh, can you pull up the plot? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
Because I felt like there was too much speed for Kid Corleone, and I think he only has one way to go. So I don't really like him, but I'm wondering what the plot shows.
Yeah, the plot's got like everyone kind of bunched up here, and this is kind of why I was really high on Chosen Braun. Seems to be the
Given that plot, isn't somebody like Hoist the Gold a major player in here? You're one horse that has speed, can be forwardly placed and still finish.
Not for me.
No?
I mean,
Okay.
I think the Chosen Braun is the horse you want in Q1 if you're going to take any of them.
You're better with optics than I am, so
it does flatter. Whoever mentioned American Theorem, I think he plots out quite well. And a horse that I had circled with like a question mark underneath was Get Her Number, which is the 6, who also plots kind of off the plot a little bit. But if you believe that there's going to be 8 horses kind of duking it out up front, I mean, Get Her Number is more than okay with that. And he does seem to be a better horse at Del Mar compared to almost anywhere else. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I really think that the 4 and 11 on the plot look the best, and then you got like the 10. I think makes a ton of sense. The 6, if this was a route race, I would probably be more into the 6, but I have a hard time taking those deep closers, going 6 furlongs. But yeah, and I don't think there were any real like. I think Optics does agree with you a little bit, Caleb, with Spirit of McKenna. They got perfect the last 2, and this is definitely not going to be a race where I think a forwardly placed horse is going to get any kind of perfect trip. But there's no green words or anything kind of popping out here. So, like I said, I kind of thought I thought it went. This race kind of goes through the 4, 11, 10 makes sense. But anything else in here?
Nope,
cool. So yeah, so we spent all that time talking about it. It's just for Dr. Scheibel to win it like 5-2. But race 11 here, we got an interesting little maiden race here, and God bless Del Mar for not making it a state bred maiden claimer on the turf where there's like 14 horses. Instead, it's a maiden special weight with like 16 horses, I think. And I think only 12 draw in. My top pick is actually on the AE list, but there's a couple other ones I like in here. Mark, where did you kind of land?
I had a real tough time with this race, and I went to just angles. I have a very hard time with Del Mar maiden races in the fact that I don't know all the connections, I don't know all the angles, I don't know what tends to work here. But I ended up, my top 2 were 2 horses that are kind of, somewhat favored. The 5 and the 6. The 5 is the D'Amato, first time in the States horse with Hector Barrios up. I know obviously he gets a lot of live mounts with those connections, and he's very high percentage for them. And this horse is absolutely getting the full kitchen sink treatment. I can't articulate. Sorry. Gelded, first time Lasix, and first time in the United States. So I thought that, maybe this one is one that bled first time out or needs a little extra help and gets shipped to the States. And I thought the 6, is a horse that was a little bit interesting. The kind of that off the pace, big 1-run closer type. The figures from that debut race, I guess part of what I was getting to this horse was it hasn't really broken that well both times, and kind of left a lot to do late. Late. Hopefully, they've sort of gotten those things sorted out, and this one could be a little bit more involved earlier in the race. So yeah, I thought there were some things to like, but oh my god, there's a lot of ways you can go in this race, and it was a real tough one for me.
Caleb.
Yeah, it is a tough race. I think it's hard to have a very strong opinion in here. Kind of going off of what a few others have mentioned. I did like the 6 in here and the 7, who've already been talked about, Hula Candy and Watsonville. I thought both of them had trouble in that last race, different races, but each had their own trouble. And both were kind of racing against the flow of the race, kind of trying to run late in a race that held together up front. That's always an angle I like to bet back. So I thought the 6 and 7 were both pretty interesting. The 5 I thought looked good, legitimate target. I mean, Hector up for a Phil D'Amato European shipper. D'Amato's been hot with his European shippers lately. The horse didn't take any money on that debut, but was only beaten third lengths and kind of split the field. So it definitely has a right to improve. The only other horse that I kind of gave a look to was the number 1, Unusual Activity. There's a lot of pedigree with this horse. And I know Yak Team, not necessarily a guy that's known for winning first out, especially on the turf, but a really, really strong turf pedigree here. 5 turf winners from 6 starters. If you see the DPI on the Brisnet form of 3.43, the Dam's offspring have banked 2.2 million collectively.
Wow.
Almost all of that on the turf. So a really, really nice, Dam for producing some turf winners, probably led by Mucho Unusual, who was a very nice turf router in herself. So I think there's a lot of pedigree here. I don't love Giovanni Franco taking the mound. This is a horse that may need a start, but I think he is going to be good, when he eventually gets going. So that's, of the first timers or lightly raced horses, that's the one that probably I thought was most interesting.
Yeah, and Krikorian and Yakteen won the second. Was it the second to last race, or no? That turf race that we looked at. They've won. This is a homebred, so I don't know. They just won a race today. That was pretty nice, at a pretty nice price. So, I mean, my top pick in this race is the AE. Obviously, the 14 Maltese Falcon. So this one kind of gets in. I thought this was one that was super interesting. If you look at the optics, they are just like, this horse is just like better than looks the last 2 times out. And that's almost winning a stakes race going a mile and a quarter. Although I know, this horse, if this horse draws in, it'll probably be overbet. Just because people I think will probably say the same thing. But of the horses that are kind of in here, I do like the 8 here, Shay's Tornado, for everyone's favorite turf trainers, Bob Baffert and Juan Hernandez.
Caleb, Josh just took the Baffert on turf.
Yep. Lightly,
No, it's not like a good Baffert on turf. This is a horse that's way too slow. It has ran a favorable race flow and did nothing.
Wait, I guess it's an E8 or something.
Yeah, I mean that's like there's
what are
Baffert's
you
on
talking
turf.
about? This is a little Z pattern. The Z pattern. You don't like the Z pattern?
Josh.
I don't know. I think this is a F pattern.
I think it's an F pattern. Wow. I will say that optics did agree with you, Caleb and Mark, on the 6 horse having kind of two back-to-back rough trips. I'm interested to see why Mike Smith is not riding the sheriff's horse unless Smith got the boot. But they also have an excuse written down for the 9, Bring Him Home. I didn't really give this one much of a look, but just something optics kind of pointed out. Hey, Dujour won a nice race last week. All right,
The only Baffert to ever be anything.
No, he had the other
There's
one.
literally one.
Who's the other
There's
one?
2.
Yeah,
Kingley.
the other one, Kingley. Thank you.
Are you talking about the wife? Is the horse?
The one he didn't even know was running.
He did,
No, he didn't know it was
he's not
running
even
exactly.
training?
Yeah.
He's training or something, or is that du jour?
But anyways, so I did like the 8 here a little bit, lightly raised horse. Second coming in here to stretching out. Second time, you get a jock upgrade going from Ramon Vasquez to Juan Hernandez. Not really a ton of turf pedigree. Airgates are not necessarily known for turf, but I don't know. This is either this horse is a turf horse or this horse just sucks because he's running on turf. So maybe you're right, Caleb. Maybe this horse just sucks.
I'm not sure.
But I also like the 10 horse here, Precision Strike, for Doug O'Neill and Tiago Pereira. I just thought that this was this is a horse that's it's been close twice. It's going to have that pressing run style here. And when I kind of looked at the plot, seemed to be like one that's going to be probably just off the pace in this spot. And might be the one that kind of gets first run on a couple of these. So, it's tough to guess with so many first time starters in here, so many that are kind of trying this distance for the first time. But the 10's got a couple of it's got a couple of starts in there. I think he's going to be Tiago's going to have him in a good spot, and I think that last race was was pretty good. After they took the blinkers off, I think Tiago kind of had him in the right spot there. And outside horses coming off the pace. I was incorrect on speed being good, but outside pressers I think are where you want to be here on the turf. So I think that the 10 makes a bunch of sense here at a decent price, 6-1. Any other horses you want to talk about in here?
I also thought your 10 was interesting, but we could go crazy here and literally talk about every horse in this race. This is a really
this is definitely race. A spread race.
This is tough. This is really, really tough. So.
Yeah, you could argue the 3, the 4. There's a lot of ways to go.
The 4's got the fastest fig on time form, and that last out race, and gets a little bit of a cutback and kind of stopped a little late. So maybe the 4 is a really interesting player. I like Josh. Josh mentioned the 10, albeit the horse has a lot of starts. That horse has also made a lot of sense. Like you can go a lot of different ways in here.
I think almost all of the A's also are in with the big shot as well. Should any of them draw in?
Yeah, I think if the 14 draws in, that if you're really desperate to kind of keep it narrow, you could probably single the 14. He's got races going back to Santa Anita earlier this year that I think win here. Maybe it's just a case of a hangs. I don't know.
You do realize that Barrios is over 20 for the Powell Barn, right?
I bet a 3% trainer today at Del Mar. So I don't realize that. I see 0 for 3 on my sheet. So
I see 0 for 20 in the last year.
But yeah, we could sit here and wax poetic about every single horse, but then I don't know, Caleb would probably fall asleep at his desk. But he is a little bit more excited. I think Del Mar maybe is rekindled his excitement to bet horses again.
Del Mar's been great. If as a bettor, Del Mar has beaten up Saratoga and taken their lunch money. It is so much better. It's not even comparable. No, is it as exciting of a grade 1? Apples for apples. I don't know, but from a betting perspective, it's not even close.
Charles asking about the weather at Saratoga. Is it?
There's like a 30% chance of thunderstorms late on Saturday. I wouldn't worry about it. I would assume everything's going to be fast and firm. Tomorrow there's no chance. Sunday there's really no chance. So, it's Saratoga in the summer. There's always like a 15 or 20% chance of thunderstorms literally every day. But I think you're going to be fine.
Cool. And then Fighting Irish mentioning it looks like Glatt is showing a 38% sprints to route. So he says the 7 is a lock.
Oh, I don't hate that 7 at all. But other reasons. His 2 sprints to a route angle is a very shallow angle. It's a 13 horse sample size. So.
Oh. But yeah, that's going to do it for us. Make sure you guys check out Optics. At www.opticseq.com. Sign up for AM Wager if you haven't. We got our link down there below. I think the promo is different now. I think it's a bet 150, get 150. I think I'll have to reach out to our contact and see what the current promo is. But I think we had somebody.
They're always changing promos, so it's one of those things. For a month, it might be one thing, and they change it for the next month. It's hard for us to chase as they're sort of going through it.
And this is the perfect time of year to use AM Wager because Churchill Downs isn't running. So
Yeah, no CDI tracks. It's great.
But yeah, that's going to do it for us. Check us at onthewronglead.com. We will have another article up where we'll probably go 0 for 3 once again. Has been
I had place money. I had place money.
Oh, you got place money. Okay, thank God. But
It's been a rough one.
Josh took the chalk in a 5-horse field and
I think finished dead last. Yeah. So
yeah, and I've been having a great Saratoga meet financially, but my God, pick one winner a day is just the most brutal thing ever. Oof.
I'm just gonna start picking bombs. I'm going back to my roots. But yeah, check us out at onthewronglead.com. We have all of our articles on there at wrong_lead on Twitter. Obviously, we're in the Discord, and yeah, we'll catch you guys later.